Now let's talk a bit about innovation, where we take the creativity we just learned about and apply it and put it to good use. Earlier, we learned something about Thomas Edison. I want to revisit this brilliant historical figure, perhaps the greatest innovator of all time. Even when he was young, he was resourceful and creative. As many of you know, he left school, he left his household at 12 years old to start working. He sold concessions, newspapers, magazines, candy, and other merchandise on the trains in Detroit. He was also a budding journalist, writing and editing his own newspaper. Can you imagine yourself leaving home, leaving school at 12 years old? Well, it wasn't that uncommon at the time, actually, in the mid-1800s. What was remarkable was that he started innovating at 12 years old. From the Detroit Free Press, he salvaged, this is one of the newspapers he sold, he salvaged a proofing press so that he could print his own newspaper while the train was moving. So he can update it and edit it, and so he'd have the latest, greatest news in that local area. This made his newspaper more valuable, so he could sell it to more people. This was resourceful and creative. Now, not only was it good for his product, but it saved him time. So while the train was moving, he could be printing newspapers. He understood the value of time and not to waste it. Now let's fast forward a couple of decades to when Thomas Edison was in his early 30s. Everyone knows that Edison was a great inventor, right? Everyone knows that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, right? Well, actually, he didn't invent the light bulb. He was one of over 20 inventors at the time working on creating a better light bulb. Edison was actually a better businessman, a better self-promoter, a better collaborator, a better innovator than he was an inventor. More brilliant than the light bulb, which refined, made better, made cheaper to manufacture, and made longer lasting, was his development of the electric power generation system. Now, for many years, Edison worked in the telegraph industry. He built a great reputation for his technological skills. He saved money, and he persuaded the businessman to support his inventions so that he could just spend more time working on his inventions in his own factory. So during that time, in his early 30s, he was researching the gas distribution industry and the gas light industry. And so as he was working on the light bulb, he was also working on the electric power generation and distribution system. He had this in his mind. He said, I could develop a light bulb, but what good is a light bulb if we don't have an electric distribution system that's efficient and that could, more importantly, make him and his partners a lot more money than just selling a light bulb that can make a few pennies. So now, when he invented this system, he also invented the metering system, much like the same meter we use today, over 120 or so years later. Those were important inventions, and more importantly, they made him money and made him successful going forward. Therefore, when he held that impressive press conference in 1879, he did one far better than his peers. He highlighted not only the incandescent light bulb, but the way folks would receive the electricity more efficiently so that they can light those light bulbs. He clearly needed to make money from light bulb customers to capitalize on his innovative electric power generation system. This effort highlights what innovation is all about. Now let's talk about innovation definitions. There's a lot of definitions, hundreds of definitions of innovation. I mentioned here one from the 30s from the famous Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter. But the one I like the best is one I found just a few years ago in our local library looking at a textbook on innovation, one that was over 35 years old. It said that innovation was simply useful invention. And that's an elegant and simple and easy to remember definition. Useful invention, an invention that has some value and has some use. Now let me take you through the innovation process. It's rather simple. We start with idea generation. When we spoke about creativity earlier, That's when we have brainstorming sessions. We get together a group of folks, bounce ideas off one another, and generate a lot of crazy ideas. Doesn't matter how crazy. Then we look to the next step, opportunity recognition. Okay, so we say to ourselves, does this make sense? Does this idea offer a value for customers? Can it solve a problem? Also, does it align with our organization or our company, with the objectives of our organization? And do we have the technical and business capabilities to make it work? Once those are discussed, then we can talk about idea evaluation as well. So there's a back and forth at this stage. Will the idea work? That's important to understand once it's commercialized or developed. Does it make sense from a cost perspective? Another very important thing. Once we deal with those issues, amongst others, we can move to the next step. And by the way, we're still learning. We're learning all through this process. And so the next time we go through this process, we will do it faster, better, and more efficiently. So now we move to, once we get a bunch of ideas, we go through that stage, we whittle those ideas down. We go to development. And what do we do in the development stage? Well, we continue to refine those ideas. We eliminate the bad ideas. We make modification to the ones that remain. And so we can make sure that they can be more successful as they're on their way from development to commercialization. Will the company be able to make enough money from this product or service? That's an important perspective. Now, will it make sense financially for the company to invest to make that product? That's also important. If the company is not going to make money on this product down the road, it really isn't worth it. So those are important considerations. Now, moving on to commercialization. This is where the product, the one product that makes it through all those stages can be tested and launched into the marketplace. Hopefully that will be a success. It may not be a success. So then they can go back into the drawing board or go back to development and refine the product more. Now, during this whole time, they're learning how to do this process better, and they may even find a new idea or new service or product that they hadn't thought of before. So it's a cycle. They go back and work on other ideas as well. Now, what's important to say to you is that they will fail, and failure is a good thing. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times, a lot of failure. And what he commonly said, two quotes that I thought I might repeat here. He said, number one, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Now, isn't that a positive reflection on failure? Another one, many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Think about that next time you give up, how close you might have been to success. Very, very prescient words and words of wisdom from Thomas Edison. Now let's talk about two types of innovation. Let's talk about disruptive innovation. Now this type of innovation is very, very exciting because it changes a paradigm. It can create a whole new market or it can reshape a market. This is different than sustaining innovation, which is the steady improvement of products, sort of like software, Microsoft Office or their operating systems. They keep improving them every few years. Let me give you one example of a low-end innovation. Everyone knows Amazon. I just received this box a few days ago. And Amazon was one of the first movers in the e-commerce industry. They're innovative in many ways, not only because they were one of the first and most successful retailers online, but because they were able to leverage their technological prowess to become the industry leader. With their technology, they were able to delight customers with great service, user-friendly interface, one-click shopping, making it very easy for customers to find what they want and buy what they want. Now, they also saved customers money, especially when they first started, when they focused on books.